Fornhan.Ponsan, and roll now and become part of the story. As it would seem, is the Johan Aopon now fully at us. Let's go at some of the traditions that came with it. For this will we go through the Johan Aopon from when it was just the gathering of the high societies to what it is today, and see what was happening at each step. We mostly already went over it, so I will only shortly recap it. The gathering of the high society was by no means a peaceful gathering. On surface had all to put up a friendly face. This is not dissimilar to how after World War II, despite everything that happened, the losing countries still got given money for repairing what they caused to themselves. If you only always fight, will you not evolve? Even 500 years ago did they know it would be for the best interest to help those they are at odds with, to gain something bigger out of it. But of course was it also the testing ground. Weapons, techniques, new magic, all could only be tested on their own, if they didn't want to start a war for no reason. The gathering allowed them to test against other weapons, with it still being seen as acceptable. And finally was it not only weapons, but also people that got tested, figuring out on what they had to await from others, on both defensive and offensive. They checked how well they were prepared to fight someone else and how good they could defend against them. While the man versus man real fight was also a fighting in chess. Not the game itself, but the joking around of what you could do and see how the others respond. The witch hunts changed everything. The start was not a fixed date, but a gradual shift. It started by the humans gathering intel on magies, bound together to fight another threat bigger than their own. They created encyclopedias, and while many were burned in the book burning of 1933, do we know that the name encyclopedia would be a questionable term. What they were was nothing more than a list of how to kill any one particular being. List of what is most effective against them, and how, even without magic, you can oppose them. The gatherings became a brainstorming on the best course of action to eradicate magies. And on top would they also tally where and when magies are seen, to know where to strike back. If the books weren't burned, would this be an amazing information on where magies of this region lived back in the days, and how that shifted over time. But as it stands, do we have to rely on worse sources of information. This also was where over here in the West we started to develop talismans, tools designed for the sole purpose of imprisoning magies. And I can assure you, this was not an attempt to capture them, but to make them unable to oppose humans that are set out to strike them down. At this time were real mages still part of this, but that was slowly about to shift. What started was that sages became popularized. Now, sages, as it was used during that time, was just another word for mages. The important factor differentiating, however, was that sages did, to our knowledge, never use magic. All they did was to help create tools that combat magic, not try to use magic. Sages searched understanding so they knew how to stop magic, not how to use it. With the rise of sages, mages got pushed out of the range of humans. For now they still were seen as necessary, but that was about to end. The main goal of mages is to further magic understanding, but humans no longer wanted to understand magic. It started with the mages being replaced. After that they slowly dismantled the magic system how it was currently set. Mages no longer got funded. They lost their special rights, they had to find their own ways of getting research material, mind that was why they still were expected to deliver the same results, and ultimately they were treated as normal peasants. This would naturally not without counteractions on the mage's side. The more they got removed from the human system, the more they were inclined to take the magie's side. As mages no longer had the side of humans, was a little point of treating magies like the humans did. Up until now was the entire mage system built upon the ability on using humanity's forces to get the research material needed for experiment. With this no longer being a possibility, did they need to decide if they want to continue as mage or stop. But stopping was not a real possibility either, as they got treated like mages regardless. Humans started to hate Magies, and with that other humans that are in contact with them also seen as betrayers of the human race. It was not as if the common folk would have gotten any information of what was going on. So if someone tells them to hate the people that are in cahoots with the thing they already hate without having any preconception of them, was the decision an easy one. This means that mages were forced to accept Magies, as without them the only thing they could do would not exist. You could argue that the hatred of humanity towards Magies was what brought forth such development in working together with them. Those humans that up until now without a problem treated them like stupid beasts were forced to suddenly live with them or perish. In need will the devil eat flies. This means that the gathering of the higher societies now had the goal of figuring out as much information about Magies as they could to know where they could find them and how they could kill them. They created a new group that specialized in finding ways of fending off magic and, the most important for our purpose, the removing of mages from the system and starting to treat mages like Magies. They couldn't just openly hunt down humans, but they could say that humans are hacks, and hunting a hex is suddenly fair play. The half Johan Aopon started as a general gathering of mages. They served in the beginning, and basically throughout all the time we would consider them half Johan Aopon as a way for mages to generate structure and order. The rules of mages were set that we follow to this day, even if many of them are changed and adapted to the modern age. For the first time did they use the opportunity to work together instead of finding out ways to end another. Magic development skyrocketed after they sorted out what was common ground for all. Spell circles had up until this point a need of being at least 3 power lines. Mages finally started to learn Magic as more than just a means of understanding the beast the magic came from. The groundwork for understanding Magic was formed. But keep in mind that even these mages still distanced themselves from Magies. They learned how to use Magic properly in a primitive way, through interacting with magic animals. They then also started to create encyclopedias that too got mostly burned. It is however possible to date a clear difference in age between that what we have left, and the later ones all write down far more information about Magies than just ways of killing them. This shows that at this point they clearly gathered information to get a clear understanding on what was going on, over seeing this as a necessity. The book started with just basic information, but we have also some leftovers that have detailed listings on interactions between Magies and how to approach them, what they need, and how to get access to their midst. Now it is finally time for the Johan Aopon to happen. The official date for the first Johan Aopon we see is when the first time non-humans were part of it. For this we need to distinguish what taking part means. Against the later stages became familiar popular, as magic needs the Magies, so mages opted to keep familiars and specialize in specific types of magic. Naturally would they bring these familiars to the half Johan Aopon, but the real one started when Magies took part that weren't there as familiars. The first to do so being the seers. It may seem weird that they would take part, and they indeed did not take part like the Magies of these days do. Inherently did magic societies not trust any humans. However, are magical beings far less resentful. The seers are one of more curious and as stray as a cat would be. There are no direct connections between them and cats, but they act alike, as if there was. What you probably don't know about is that despite their stray nature are seers following larger structures, just as we do. While they will hardly be recognizable to what you are thinking of when thinking of social structures, did they in broad terms still have something like that? This is similar to great fairies. It's not a ruler, but instead someone whose words has a lot of weight. This led to them giving the humans an uninvited visit during one of the Johan Aopon. It must have been a sight, as it is depicted as a cloud of fog covering the premise and overlooking all what the humans did. They neither interfered nor harmed anyone and supposedly simply moved around in such masses that it looked like one entity. After that did mages slowly realize, together with the research they did on magies, that they could have magies take part. It was still seen as a risk, but they saw that the risk was smaller than the reward of having the ability to directly talk with magies. It was not as if at this point that was still a new thing, but up to this point was it only ever done by sole individuals or groups, rather than a combined effort of the mages, and they would simply share their figuring out on the Johan Aopon. That means the modern Johan Aopon started. Not only could the humans use this to learn about magies, but could they also use it to learn about us. It was what tore down the last wall standing between mages and magies. But it is important that this was only about mages. Magical beings and below wouldn't be able to distinct, but magic societies very well could, and they would. But as we are now far past the point of witch hunting, were mages simply seen with a strange eye, instead of hated by other humans, so they acted inside normal society, and with that gives that normal human society over to magies. It sounds strange to think about it, but until 170 years ago did magies solely live with humans as they could abuse them for most often food. In the time up until World War I did they integrate into our society. This was still a hiding, but they saw more in humans than just some sort of enemy. Also could both humans and magies develop the magic far further like this. Magies pretty much only used magic in its most basic form, and while it is true that they can't use spell circles and the like, can they, thanks to human understanding of the world, learn their own unique ways of improving magic. The final act then was when they started fighting between the races. This was a showing of trust that would show what we had to offer, openly and directly, instead of plotting behind their backs. This world is made by you. Comment on what should be part of it, or maybe there's already a class for that. I also have to wonder what the off class might be up to right now.